All right, let's open the meeting of September 12th, 2023. Call to order. Commissioners' public forum. Anybody here from the public that would like to speak? All right, hearing none, moving on. Minutes, warrants, and abatements. Peter McLam.
Yeah, hold on, I'm just driving still.
Oh, sorry. Sue, you want to read those?
Sue, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So the warrants for today, Advantage Enterprises for $3,000, Toshiba, $50.08, Vandy Auto Supply, $26.18, Vandy Auto Supply, $41.40, LaForte Electric, $366, LaForte Electric, $606.27. The next three are for Slims in Berthium, one for $9,950, one for $9,500, and one for $1,800. Kirkwood Direct, $510.39. WB Mason for $16.07, and LaForte Electric for $482.40. Slims and Berthium again for $14,550, and Amazon for $109.99 for a total of $41,008.78.
I just have a question, Pete. That 14,000 from Slims, is that sewer leak by 169?
Yes.
Yes, and that,
That's going to be reimbursed from an insurance company, I'm assuming.
yeah, Sue has sent that invoice over to the company that did the boring, and they should be submitting it to their insurance company for reimbursement.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we accept that as printed.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Who
Roll
was
call
this?
vote.
Who was the second?
Peter
Hey.
McLam.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Bernard, you're muted, Eric, if you're on. Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Great.
Let's see, moving on to our scheduled appointments.
Wait, we need a motion to approve the minutes of August 15th.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as printed.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Bernard, Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Jennings, aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Sorry about that. Now moving on, scheduled appointments, Veolia wastewater treatment plant phase 1 upgrade design presentation.
All right, so Veolia and Wright Pierce Engineering are at our meeting to provide an overview of the project implementation plan for the headworks upgrade. In August of 2022, you approved the use of ARPA funds to fund this project. The purpose of this study was to follow up on the conceptual design report that was completed by Wright Pierce in June of 2022. There are two reports attached. The first is a basis of design memorandum, which provides background of existing operating conditions and the proposed recommended improvements by Wright Pierce. And the second is a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, from Veolia to perform the work in the design memorandum. And again, members from Veolia are here to discuss that GMP, and Dennis Devert from Wright Pierce is here to answer any technical questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Veolia, and they can kind of walk us through, I guess, how we got to where we did with that GMP part of the project.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Pete. Just My name is Hans Tuneblum. I am the director of our capital program management group for the Northeast region in Veolia. Here I've got Dan Finan, who is our project manager during these studies with us. Pete also mentioned Dennis Divert with Wright Pierce, although I don't see Dennis on my list here, or the boxes up there, but hopefully he's on here as well. And then also we worked closely with Vinnie Masterson and Dave Connors with the Veolia operations team. So Dan, I don't know if we can hear you yet.
Well, let's test it. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Okay.
All right.
There's two of me. I've got a laptop and
All right.
another one. So
You want me to flip up the presentation, or can you think you got that?
I think I can do it. If they're
Great.
on. All right. Yeah, I have a few slides. I know there's not a lot of time. I was actually going to open with just a summary of kind of how we got here, but Pete did cover that. We did that in evaluation, partnered with Wright Pierce in 2022, looking at three process areas at the wastewater plant: headworks, chemical handling, and actually secondary nutrient removal. The project implementation plan that we're presenting is actually what we're calling phase one. It just includes the recommendations that came out of that evaluation for headworks and chemical handling. So this is just a summary of that June 2022 evaluation report, the conceptual design report. It was pretty straightforward in terms of the headworks recommendations. It recommended that in the headworks we would replace the screen and add grit removal. We looked at trying to utilize the existing infrastructure as best we could. That included tying into existing blowers that are on site for the equalization tank, and just some pretty standard or straightforward local controls with just common alarms going back to SCADA. The alternatives, or the recommended alternative for upgrading the chemical handling, was a new soda ash volumetric feeder, some sodium hydroxide containment and a metering pump, and then some improvements to that existing chemical room space, replacing the ventilation fan. All of that, all those recommendations were inside the existing chemical handling area. And as you'll see, what we did after, taking this conceptual evaluation report towards the end of 2022 and the first half of this year, we had a series of design build workshops where we went in, talked with operations. We partnered with a contractor, C.H. Nickerson, who came to the site, and we really went from that initial kind of conceptual recommendations, started looking at how to bring that, to design where we could give a guaranteed price. As we went through that process, we did add scope. There were changes, again, from input. One, just being there and seeing what was the conditions on site, and talking to operations. This next slide is a table of the actual costs or cost estimates from that first box. On the left is the June 2022 report, and on the right is the implementation plan, project implementation plan, or the guaranteed maximum price. You'll see that the cost did go up. When the conceptual plan with the headworks, the chemical feed area, and contingency and technical services are bringing everything, the design to a point to build, was at about 2.4 million. At the end of the day, after we did these design workshops and added scope, we ended up at 4.5. Knowing that that was a lot higher than the conceptual design report from the previous year, we did go back. We talked to Peter. We did go back and try to do some value engineering. So we were able to identify over 700,000 of kind of value engineering deducts, things that you could, I guess, live without, or things that you would postpone to a future upgrade. I'm sure we'll talk about these numbers, but I did want to just, the last piece of just the presentation was just to go over what those scope changes were and how those we arrived at these numbers. So notes 1 and 2 on this, you'll see not just this past year, but the past several years, we've seen escalation on equipment and labor on almost all of our projects. We think that we probably saw about 300,000 or 400,000 in escalation just on the construction cost side of this over the past year. Something to consider. We also, if you look at that second line item, we added contingency to the project. I mean, that is something that, I mean, can be reduced or could be talked about. That's just a number to offset any risk that we might see during the construction process for changes. The conceptual report had about 5%, and we went up to about 10. Technical services, which again is kind of the continued engineering and construction administration once construction begins, that went up as well, but it went up, in line with just kind of the scope that was added to this as we process. So this is actually the only other slide I have. I did want to discuss, because that number did go up, some of the added scope. So here's a summary of some of the things. I'm just going to read them off. But we did start to look at hydraulics at the plant, and that was known to be an issue and would be an issue in the future if secondary improvements were made. So we did look at how we could improve that in phase 1. That included adding about 400 feet of new gravity line coming into the plant. I mentioned that the original conceptual report was going to tie into the existing blowers. We did add 2 new grit blowers. We added HVAC improvements in the headworks building. A number of controls. So we fully automated controls we brought back to the plant that could be run through SCADA in the control room. And you can see from the list here, there was an addition of, instead of having that soda ash feeder in the chemical room with worries about the slurry line getting clogged, we moved it out to the outside to the grit chamber. And as we look, the big thing on the chemical handling areas that we looked at putting a code compliant outdoor, it's not a building, but it's a prefabbed storage container out there for sodium hydroxide. And then the last couple of things, just of note that were kind of significant to these cost increase. The service between the headworks building, the electrical service between the headworks building and the main plant, we found that we'd have to redo some duct work and basically put a new service out there. And there were some minor things with the odor control blowers. So this is not just the HVAC, but the blowers that bring the foul air out to the biofilter. We looked at making some improvements there. And there were some anti-corrosion coatings that we added to the grit tank. So a number of things. Just here's the idea here is just to outline how some of these costs went up. Some of these things are the value engineered things that can be deducted. But at the end of the day, we did, if I go back to this this slide. We did end up presenting to the town in the project implementation plan, this number on the right.
Dan, can you explain what the deducts are?
Yeah, I could pull them. There were a number of things. Some of them are in this increased scope.
Yeah,
But that's why I'm asking, because I believe some of the things that you talk about for increase in the cost are mentioned here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Dan,
so
I think the best place is just, I don't know if we need to pop it up, but I think, they're in the, project implementation plan that, Peter attached. I mean, I don't know if you have that available. We can pull
I
those
can
up.
try to.
You can just go
I
through
do.
those.
I do. I want to make sure that we don't get too deep into the weeds. I
Yeah.
guess for the commissioners who haven't been involved in any of these discussions. But Dan, can you go back to the previous slide?
This one, yep.
And I guess, do any commissioners have any questions right now?
I don't have any questions right this second.
Nor do I.
Neither do I.
All right, thank you. So Dan, on the project implementation plan, that all the way to the right for July 2023,
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused as why we have a construction contingency if we are getting a guaranteed maximum price from you.
Peter, this is we want to be transparent. We want to be transparent with you guys, with that. We went back and looked, we carry a contingency on our project costs. Like I said, I wanted to be transparent. I wanted to share that with you. We did not feel that $95,000 was, a sufficient contingency to have on a project like this. I mean, we still need to complete the 100% design. We can certainly have discussions how to work with the town on the value of that contingency. I mean, it can be an open book shared contingency. I mean, you can own the contingency, we can own the contingency. So Peter, it was there as just to be transparent with the town.
So my understanding of the contingency in table 1.1 is that this was very conceptual design, and the contingency is there just like any other planning project. We have contingency in case who knows what's going to change as part of the project, because we didn't even do any design yet. My understanding as part of the GMP is we were going to get a guaranteed maximum price that will not be exceeded for Veolia to come in and do this work based on the 60% drawings. And pretty much what you're showing us is a guaranteed maximum price that includes a contingency. However, if we don't spend the full 3.6 and that contingency isn't used, does that money get taken off the project, or are we still 3.8 million and Veolia just gets to keep that extra?
Peter, that's open for discussion. I mean, we can work, we're flexible. We can work, in different options with that. Like I said, I want it to be, I'm not looking to just, make $400,000 on this. I wanted the town to know that is a real number that's, included in this, in this budget.
I guess, and secondly, can you guys describe the type of technical services we'll get for $483,000 over this, I'm gonna say 8-month project?
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you want me to take this? I mean, I wrote it or
Sure, if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, we would, we have included a scope of engineering for engineering services during construction from Wright Pierce. That is included in that price. They would, do the things that you would typically expect from an engineer of record. They would review all of the shop drawing submittals. They would file for any construction permits that we need from any, state, local, federal agencies. They would work with us, addressing any requests for information during the work. They will provide O&M manuals. They will provide, an updated plant O&M manual with these changes. They will provide a set of record drawings for the work with that. And then also on top of that, Veolia we would provide, on-site representation during the construction, be a combination of, resident project representatives from Wright Pierce, as well as Veolia staff to ensure the scope and the quality and the schedule for the work.
Okay, of that 483,000, how much of that is Veolia and how much of that is Wright Pierce?
Peter, I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember that number off the top of my head.
I have a question. So this is 60% done. Is that what I understand? The
Correct.
design is 60% done.
Yeah, approximately. Some of it is further along. Some, it's progressed to a point where, we feel, we're confident to give pricing on this scope of work.
What's it going to cost us to get 100% plan?
That's
design
included. That's included. You would, that's included in that technical services fee. There's it's not a big amount, but there is an amount for, Wright Pierce to finalize and, prepare a set of final documents. But at this point, we would be, we're willing to, to start construction, and, file for permits and all of that based on the drawings that are already completed.
I guess through you, Mr. Chair, just to kind of talk about the process a little bit further, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Pete.
So in the conceptual design report, and for that headworks upgrade of a construction cost of 1.767, that included 2 center flow screens in the existing headworks building with aerated grit removal. And again, after working with Wright Pierce and Veolia going through this process to get us to 60% design, we actually went away from the 2 screens, reduced it down to 1. We reduced the type of vortex grit or the aerated grit removal that they were recommending and changed that also. So I think in my mind, we actually changed the scope of work so it should be less work, less equipment, and easier to get done. I understand that things change, but when we look at the next sheet that Dan showed, that showed the stuff that we add, most of that is removed in the deductions of the 740,000. So you're still looking at a project that was 2.2 million that ballooned up to 3.5, in my mind, for less of an upgrade. The product that Wright Pierce provided us in our 60% designs that, again, that we sat through many meetings with, that Vinny was involved with, Veolia was involved with, that came out of the initial report, that also spent a lot of time understanding the flow at the plant, what type of constituents we get in our flow, and what will be needed to be able to more efficiently treat those, I think is a good product. Unfortunately, getting to this 60% design and seeing this GMP proposal, or this, what are we calling it, for project implementation plan, unfortunately falls flat to me and makes me question, I guess, where we are and the best way to move forward. So I think your question of what would it take to get us to 100% design, I think should be had probably with Wright Pierce and asking them to move forward if that's where the commission wants to go. And maybe even look at what phase 2 was going to be, with removing a couple of RBCs and doing some different type of treatment processes in that area and the 2 outdoor RBCs. And instead of doing a phase 1 and phase 2 plan, maybe just doing one larger upgrade that can be done at one time, so you're not upsetting the treatment plant twice. We're gonna have quite a bit of healthy money in our stabilization account that could probably fund almost half of that project. And the remainder could be borrowed for and paid for with revenues over the next 20 years. So I think, unfortunately, that this exercise for me with the GMP did not necessarily get us to where I was hoping it would. And again, we're here. I get it. We do have 60% designs, but I think moving forward, I think the commission should be able to take this and kind of move it forward in a different avenue than what's presented here.
Yeah, no, we would certainly, be happy to work with you on getting it to that point. And Peter, to be honest, one of the reasons that we like to take this approach is because, unfortunately, sometimes this does happen in projects. They do, the cost increases, and we're at a point now where you can have these decision points. So unfortunately, the price is higher.
So I think, Hans, that's great, and I appreciate that. The issue, I guess, again, is the initial report was an $80,000 kind of tabletop study. That was kind of higher elevation. We didn't get into the weeds. Wright Pierce got a great understanding of the plant and flows and what we're finding and what we're getting for loadings. But this GMP project that was almost $200,000 is a study that gets us a 60% design, that it moves us forward a little bit. There was a lot of good work that went into it, but there's really, if we don't decide to spend $3.8 million, there's nothing actionable for us here for spending that time and money. And that's, I guess, where the disconnect is a little bit for me.
Yeah, but I mean, there is like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but there is a nominal fee. You can get it to the 100%, and the town can choose how you can choose how you want to implement this. This is our approach. It's been successful in lots of other communities, and like I said, we take this approach just in case this happens. I mean, there is an off ramp with this, with it, and we stand behind this number. We worked diligently to get the best number that we could. It has been a very difficult construction environment. Costs have gone up, and there were definitely certain things that were added. So
Anybody else from the commission have any questions or anything?
Not at this time.
All right.
Not at this time.
So I guess, Mr. Chair, it's up to you guys if you want to consider acting with the proposal from Veolia for that project implementation plan to get the work done for approximately $3.8 million, or if you want to kind of circle back and again review that 60% design, and then consider the report from 2022 that was done, talks about the other upgrades that I mentioned. And I know Dennis is on here, if you wouldn't mind kind of joining in and maybe talking about maybe what the overall upgrade would look like if you were to consider designing both at once, see if that would be beneficial, or just doing a phase 1 or phase 2.
Sure, Peter, I am here. Let me just
Thank you.
gonna pull up the original
Dan,
study really
Dan,
quickly.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
Yep.
I have it pulled up, Dennis, if you want me to share. if that'd be easier for you, unless you want to share it, so you have control over what pages we go to.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll share. Let me just get it open here.
So again, for the commission and members who don't know, Dennis works for Wright Pierce and has been one of the lead engineers for this project and has participated in many of the meetings since the beginning, so. I think he has a fairly good understanding of the treatment plan as it is and the improvements they're recommending.
All right. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just cover your eyes for a second. I'm going to scroll up. All right. So, okay, so this was the final report, conceptual design, that report we did in June of 2022. I'm going to just stick to the executive summary.
Great.
So in this report, we met with Veolia staff and town staff at the plant. There was 4 main items that we looked at. There was the inconsistent compliance with seasonal ammonia discharge limits from the plant, the capacity of the treatment plant to be able to accept additional organic loadings, specifically from places like a brewery, the lack of redundancy at peak flow through the headworks. Currently, there's only, as you know, there's 1 combined screenings grit removal piece of equipment that is currently not functioning properly. And then there's some issues in the chemical storage area with some code compliance and some storage. The storage of chemical in the space is larger than what's allowed by code without having a sprinkler system. So those were the main things that we looked at. And in summary, we did a full 20-year flow and loads analysis for the plant to make sure that we were sizing everything hydraulically and treatment wise. All processes were sized to handle the 20-year flow and loads. And again, as mentioned a couple of times in this meeting, well, with the headworks, the recommendation in the headworks was to install 2 center flow screens in an aerated grit tank. I'm going to scroll down to so we had shown, 2 center flow screens and this center channel here, and an aerated grit tank out in the yard. Is somebody say something? I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay. I'm gonna head back over to here. So again, for headworks, we kept it simple, 2 screens and an aerated grit tank. Again, at that point, we didn't know anything about the issues with the hydraulics until we got into the design. Moving over to the chemical storage side of things, we did some process modeling of the system to determine that by adding automated soda ash to maintain alkalinity would potentially decrease the amount of sodium hydroxide that the plant had to keep and store on site. So the way that we structured the chemical handling improvements was to only store inside the space what was allowed by code, which is about 500 gallons of hazardous liquid chemical. During the design, it was found that, the town needs more than 500 gallons of storage. And by Massachusetts code, that would require us to sprinkler that entire building. So moving away from that, that's why we looked at installing additional sodium hydroxide outside in that separate structure. So that's where that addition came from. And then I guess on the secondary side, pardon me, it's been a few months since I looked at this report. Okay, here we go. So secondary treatment, we're going to remove, there's RBCs outside. We're going to remove those from service. do some additional site piping, and install some new MBBR, tankage and yard piping from those to the existing RBC system. Also, in addition to that, I believe we're putting in a new sludge storage tank and new sludge thickening building, new sludge thickening equipment, and all associated electrical and instrumentation work. And at that time, to do all of this was, I believe it was possibly like $10 million. It was like 8 million for the secondary improvements and 2 million for the preliminary improvements. So at that time, it was decided to go with a phase 1, phase 2 approach. So I think what Peter's referencing is sort of lumping all of this back into one comprehensive project instead of doing 2 phases. I think, Peter, did I explain that well enough? Am I missing anything? Anything you wanted me to expand upon, or?
No, I think that's only, do you think there is economies of scale to do the phase 1 and phase 2, so the headworks and the secondary treatment at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it all has to do with timing and the bidding climate, as you know. But yes, you would obviously save some cost by doing it all together.
And I guess based on what you have currently designed for the 60% drawings, you would be able to get the commission a proposal to go from that to 100% design for phase 1, and maybe a secondary quote or an alternate to do the phase 2 secondary treatment full design as well.
I believe so. I need to discuss that with Hans and my boss, Chris Pierce. But yes, I'm sure something could be arranged. Yep.
Okay. So again, just to let the people from Veolia know, and also yourself, Dennis, I am taking a new job next week, so I won't be here anymore. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to lay the groundwork for
Understood.
the commission to find a way to move forward with this.
Mhm.
So they don't just end up with a nice fancy book, a nice fancy binder on the shelf.
Understood. Yeah, everyone has a couple of those hanging around.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there so the commission can kind of hear from you, not just myself, what the possibilities may be and kind of what that might look like.
That's correct. That is a possibility. That is an option.
And I guess lastly, I know Vinny's on the line, and Vinny, can you just kind of chime in and kind of let the commission know if you're on board with, you know, the improvements being proposed and what you think they'll do for the treatment plant? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think it'll be good for them to hear.
Okay, so the headworks improvements are great. The chemical room's great. I don't know if I'm on board with the MBBR. I know it's effective. I know they work. But I've heard that they're labor intensive to clean and they need to be cleaned regularly. And at this facility, I will not have staff perform those cleaning duties without changing a lot. That's my only concern with going to an MBBR. As far as its effectiveness, I'm sure it's plenty effective what we're asking.
So I guess on that note, Dennis, do you have experience with the MBBRs and what it would look like to address that concern?
So to be honest, Peter, I am not a process expert on MBBRs. I'd have to get someone else on the horn, the one who did the evaluation for you folks in June of 2022. That would be Doug Hankins.
You could have somebody try and answer Vinny's.
Oh, absolutely, with a simple phone call. Yep.
But
And then I
Dennis,
guess
I'm sorry.
I
Dennis,
just wanted
weren't
to
there
follow-
other alternatives in the in that report that you've got open right now that were looked at?
There
There
I know
was.
they were a higher cost, but
And
There's
they
a
also
footprint.
involved expanding off of our current property.
Yes.
The MBBR was the only option that allowed us to stay in our current footprint without having to buy additional property.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, and then much like Dennis, I'm not going to claim to be a wastewater treatment process expert by any means. And Dave may be able to help me here, but I believe, we operate facilities with MBBR, and we would certainly, we would welcome welcome site visits, tours, anything, or even, not, of course, non-Veolia facilities, just to, see the MBBRs in use. It is a relatively common wastewater treatment process.
So again, just to, I don't want to switch gears yet, so I'm gonna, while I have all of the Veolia representatives on the call, I'm gonna hit something different. But I just want to make sure, I guess, do any commissioners have any follow-up questions on what we were kind of just talking about?
I don't think so, Pete. I think we're probably gonna take this under advisement and make decisions later on as far as this goes.
Understood. I'm not asking, I just want to know if you had any questions.
Yeah.
But I guess the only other concern I have kind of outside of this project is something Vinny brought up with personnel and what he has to do, and the fact that he's been running short staff for approximately the last 3 to 4 months. So I know that has nothing to do with Hans and Dennis or Dan, but I think Dave is on the phone who might be able to help us with that, to try and help Vinny get the treatment plant to full staffing. I believe that's in our agreement, so. Kind of
Yeah, just to
throw
touch
that
on
out
that.
there.
Just to touch on that real quick, Dave, it's a concern that I talked to Peter about this week, as far as with Peter leaving. Peter does a lot of things above what he's supposed to be doing, and I'm sure you're well aware that he does some things that probably fall under Veolia's contract, and we're going to be expecting you guys to pick those things up as we move forward. You're trying to find a replacement for Peter.
Absolutely. And the staffing shortages is something we're experiencing pretty much in all of our projects. The industry is having issues right now with finding qualified people. We did interview somebody just recently. Vinny interviewed somebody that we're making an offer for to fill the vacant position right now, but we can certainly bring in other resources because we have projects nearby as well as needed to pick up any of that slack.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. Anybody else have any more questions?
I don't, and I would, I'd like the opportunity to just discuss this further with Vinny and then get back to the group with additional questions and direction.
All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you, guys. It's been good working with you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good
Good
luck,
luck,
Peter.
Peter. Best of luck.
Peter. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Moving on, Peter, to the monthly operating report.
Hey, Dave, if you don't mind, I'm on a little bit of a time crunch. Unfortunately, something has come up here. Do we have 3 members on other than myself?
Yeah. Yes, we, is Eric Bernard still on? His phone is here, but it's on mute. Actually, Russ, we're good. If Eric doesn't come on, we can. Oh,
Yeah,
he's-
I'm here.
All right,
Okay.
great.
On mute.
Understood. Great. We're
Thanks,
good,
Russ.
Russell. Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you.
All right, Vinny, go ahead with that MOR.
All right. We're gonna be covering the month of July. The plant was staffed by myself, Grant Krisiak, and Amy Nassis as the administrative assistant. July 7th, we completed Veolia's monthly inspection report. The quarterly objectives were working at heights, then the life-saving rule number 3 and 4, along with ergonomic injury reduction. The training, we completed the life-saving rules number 3 and 4. The ergonomic injury reduction activities 1 and 2, one was assess workstation and the other was a stretch and flex. July's wellness focus was a step challenge. We downloaded pedometers on our phones and daily tried to walk a few more steps than previously.
How'd that go?
Well, I noticed there's a lot of days I don't do that many, so it went good. I learned something.
We weren't involved.
I'm
Vinny,
sorry, Sue. We didn't want to get shamed on that much. Alright, so the HRMS assessment was on working at heights. We completed that. Compliance for the month of July, there were no exceedances. The DMR was entered into the CDX on August 15th. The operations and maintenance activities. 6 West upgrades, the pumps were delivered. We made a temporary screen for Headworks and for the bar rack. We ordered some plastic punch plate and made those temporary screens so we could remove the Headworks screen and have new material welded into it. We brought it to Accurate Metal and they took care of everything for us. They do a good job. On July 15th, I got called in at 10 p.m. for a low pH alarm. Feed line had split in the chemical room and it spilled caustic into the spill containment and on the floor. I replaced the lines and cleaned it up. On the 16th, I was called in for a high EQ tank level. And during that day, the plant received 780,000 gallons of flow in a 24-hour period. The plant's peak flow design is 850,000 gallons intermittently. And that was through a whole 24-hour period, we flowed that much. It's way more than it's built for. And during this, one of the RBCs inside the plant overflowed. The spill was contained in the building, so it was just a lot of squeegeeing and hosing, but we got it cleaned up. Due to the high flows, the plant consumed all the caustic we had on site because we can only hold a limited supply. So caustic's used to increase the pH to keep us within our permit and keep the plant running right. So what we do when we run out of caustic is we make a soda ash slurry and we use chemical feed pumps to feed that soda ash slurry. It works, but it's a lot more picky than using caustic. Caustic's nice and smooth and it just works, where the soda ash slurry clumps and it plugs up the pumps occasionally. So we're going to be looking for an alternative for that tonight. Then again, during this week here, we just had high flow after high flow. The next day we flowed 190,000 gallons in one day. We made some new drains for the office condensers. When they installed those, they just kind of let them pour out all over the floor and it was making a slip and trip hazard. So I made new drains on them and we connected it to a condensate pump and Ed Lafort wired the condensate pump in for us. So that's taking care of that now. We replaced the effluent probe. They're only good for about 6 months to a year. And that's a really crucial piece of equipment. So we just swap them out as they're bad. And we use the older ones in other places in the treatment process. Collection system activities. We collected the MTA samples on July 4th and the 17th. So we got a really good holiday on that one. On 7/25, Slims repaired a pipe that broke out of the rail at 165 Sunset Drive. We've seen a few of these now. It's where the discharge pipe from a grinder pump gets glued into the rail inside the tank. They're just breaking free. I don't know if they weren't primed and glued properly or what the case is, but we've definitely seen a couple of them this year. The pump station activities, we did all the weekly rounds and tests. We cleaned both pumps at Stevens Park. One of them wasn't running because it was ragged up, so we just cleaned them both while we were there. LaFleur came and disconnected the pumps at 6 West for the upgrade. Slim Sewer Service began replacing the pumps. They put quite a bit of work in. They sucked out the whole force main. They put a tanker there to catch everything that was going into the wet well. They replaced all the isolation valves, so they're all brand new isolation valves. And we also got brand new check valves along with the piping, and they installed the pumps that we ordered. So that was a pretty big project and it really came out good.
We charged that back to McDonald's? No. All right, go ahead.
No, that pump station is not just for McDonald's.
Yeah, that
And
has
that one's, okay.
gravity coming from the other way too. On July 21st, I got called into Mugget Hill at about 10 PM for a high level. And when I got there, I found that the phase detector had tripped out and it wasn't resetting. It should automatically reset and it wasn't. So I reset the phase detector and it worked good. We actually just had the problem again a couple weeks ago. So we had LaFleur order a new one. Sludge, we hauled 9 loads of sludge for the month to Cranston. The chemicals, we got 2 totes of sodium hydroxide, and we ordered 12 50-pound bags of cationic polymer. The pump station calls for the month. We went to 10 Park Road, and we wired in the redundant run circuit and tested it. And there was a little training on when you turn the breaker off, the alarm's probably going to go off when you turn it back on. We went to 95 Lakeview. It was an old system. And we think there may have been a broken wire. We scheduled that for an upgrade. 165 Sunset, we ended up there twice. We cleaned the floats on the first one. And then we came back and we realized it was leaking around the tank, and that's when we contacted Slims for the repair. And that concludes my MOR. But wait, there's more. I don't know if you guys saw the quote from TI Sales. So I had TI Sales quote the soda ash feeder, which is a volumetric feeder. And they quoted us at $65,000. And according to the sales rep, this thing's almost better than a Cadillac. But we had another company who actually manufactures them called Eagle Microsystems. And they quoted us for exactly what we need. And their quote came in at $7,000, or $7,029.60. So this is the volumetric soda ash feeder that you guys approved a few years ago. And at that time, there was a slurry tank added to the end of it, so we could hook it into our chemical feed pumps and feed through them. And since then, I've changed my idea of where I'd like to use it, and we don't need that slurry tank. Currently, we're adding soda ash into what we refer to as the splitter box, which is all the flow from the plant coming from the RBCs goes through the splitter box, and there's a big mixer there. So if we mount this volumetric feeder in that location, the dry soda ash will be mixed right then and there, and it should work pretty nice. And with the consideration of this, I'd like 2 of them. So one,
Vinny, can you explain how the volumetric feeder will be better than how you're currently doing it?
it's not going to be better. It's, well, it'll be better than what we're currently doing with soda ash, but it's also going to be a help with the caustic. So currently the soda ash, we dump 50-pound bags in, and it just gets mixed by the natural flow of the water. And then in the splitter box, we dump it in, and it's just one big burst. There's no way to really feed it in slowly, so we just dump a bag in and hope it blends with the tanks. This is going to feed it over a period of time, and it also has a 40/20 input, so we can turn it on and off through our SCADA, which that would need to be programmed, but it's capable. And we can also, once it's plugged into SCADA, we can control it from other probes that are in the process. So we have pH probes in that splitter box. So we could link this to run off of that pH probe and say, hey, you know what, when you see an 8.0 pH, turn it off or turn it down. But
Vinny, do you know what the cost is to have this hooked up to the SCADA and actually installed and running, or approximately?
I do not have it off the top of my head.
So even if we don't connect this to SCADA, just the ability for this to kind of feed in over 24 hours versus 1 50-pound bag at a time, I think will be beneficial to the operation of the plant.
Yes. it's a 120-volt unit, which means it can just plug into a standard receptacle. And it comes with just a potentiometer knob, so we can set it, 0 to 10 for speed. Or it has the capability of being run through SCADA. So it's either or. And the reason I was asking for 2 of them is originally we wanted to put one in Headworks as well, just to kind of buffer all the sewerage coming in. We need a certain amount of alkalinity in the incoming water for treatment. And then we also need a residual alkalinity at the splitter box for our COMAG to process effectively. So it seems like the price is right at this time to jump on 2 of them. The first quote we had was 17,000. A competitor gave us a quote for 65,000. I don't know that they're ever going to get cheaper than 7,000.
So the
Sue, do we
7,000
still have
each,
that
Vinny,
money?
Excuse me,
Sorry.
Pete?
the
Sue, do we
7,000,
still-
sorry, Pete, the $7,000 each, Vinny? So it's
Yes, sir.
14,000 you're looking for?
Yes.
Sue, do we still have that funding encumbered from when it was previously approved?
That was in June of 21, so no.
Okay.
That money went back into our account though, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So can I have a motion or some discussion about a motion here to have Vinny purchase 2 of these soda ash spreaders?
Do we know how much it's gonna cost to install these?
Again, we can run it with just a standard receptacle. It's not a huge piece of equipment. So we can just plug it into a standard receptacle and run it manually, and it'll still be way better than what we have.
Okay.
And if at some point in the future we wanted to put it into SCADA, it would be the cost of an electrician and probably a little bit of materials.
All right, so nothing crazy.
No, controls electrician is expensive, and it would probably be a day project, but I can't imagine it being more than a 1-day project.
How much is it gonna cost Vinny for you to install it and plug it into a 120 outlet and get it operational?
I don't think anything more than the cost of purchasing it.
Okay, so I guess to answer Peter's question is you have the ability to install it where you need it and plug it into a power source and have it be operational without hiring anybody else or any other cost.
Yes.
Make a motion to purchase them.
I don't know if that's my
You
phone, but
stated out, did you motion to purchase?
Yes, Peter McLean
Yeah.
made a motion to purchase 2 of them, I believe.
All right, second,
any more discussion? Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Bernard,
I,
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
And while we're looking at things to purchase, the Route 20 upgrade that Langen Engineering is working on, we spec'd out a piece of equipment called a Wet Well Wizard. And this is an all-in-one package blower with an aerator. And what this is gonna do is it'll help break down any big chunks of grease coming in. It'll break them into smaller parts that'll just pass through our pumps. And it'll also start breaking down the nitrogen that's coming from the brewery and the rest area. So the current plan is Langdon spec'd one at the Route 20 upgrade. I would also like to add one to the 6 West pump station and another one that we can portably plug in as needed at other pump stations. So currently, we should be cleaning the pump station on North Sturbridge Road every 3 to 4 months because of the grease. This should reduce that. So this piece of equipment, it's an all-in-one. So the first one for the 6 West pump station would be a 3-phase unit, which is more efficient to run. and that would need to be wired in by an electrician. The second one would be a 110-volt unit, not as efficient to run, but we could have it portable and move it to where it's needed. They both came in at the same price of $9,000 or $9,361 each.
The one that's going on Route 20 pump station, Langdon's paying for, right? Or Amazon or,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's going to be paid for by those property owners. And these can also help with reducing odors. At certain times in the summer, we have some pump stations that get odor complaints. So that portable one, we could drop in there and see if it helps with the odor complaints.
so we'll need another motion to purchase a couple of these.
Yes, please.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to purchase them.
Second. Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Bernard,
aye,
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on, new business. Peter, go ahead.
All right, please find my resignation letter attached. This Friday will be my last day here. I've enjoyed working with you guys. I feel like we've accomplished quite a bit over the last 5 or 6 years, and kind of sad to go, but it's something I feel like I need to do.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you for your service over the last 6 years. You're 100% correct. You have accomplished quite a bit since you've been here. And hopefully we can continue some of these projects that we've started on. Water sewer superintendent job description.
Is there a motion to accept it?
Oh, yeah, we need a motion to accept his resignation.
If we say no, does he have to stay?
I wish.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Thank you.
second,
No discussion. Peter, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Bernard,
aye,
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Regrettably.
Appreciate that.
So let's talk about next order of business. The water sewer superintendent job description. Sue and I met with HR department and Andrew Goulis last week, and Sue and I kind of went over and went through the job description. You want to take it from here, Sue, on a couple things?
No,
No, all right. We redlined some things, guys. We added a few things. They're highlighted in red. We're gonna have an interim period of time, obviously, without Peter. I've talked to McClure Engineering. They're more than happy to help us out with whatever we need. Sue is going to take on a couple of extra responsibilities in the meantime. As we've heard tonight, Vinny's gonna go out and do inspections and whatnot, meter reading. These are some of the things that Peter has done. Anything to do with the water, Sue's gonna deflect off to Southbridge. Anything with the sewer that's technical, she'll deflect off to either McClure or to Vinny. So with that being said, I guess that we need to set up a maybe a committee or a sub committee of members to find a replacement for Pete. Somebody that's going to interview new candidates and whatnot. I'm more than happy to do that. I think we should put one more guy on instead of two more people. That way we don't have to advertise every time we're going to have a meeting or an interview. I did talk to Russ about it. He said he would be interested if you, Peter McLam, or you, Eric, were not interested in it.
I'm fine. I'm personally fine with Russ.
Okay. Eric,
yeah, that's fine.
okay. I don't know, do you don't need a motion for that, Peter?
I would do two motions. I would do one motion that approves the
Job
changes to the job description that's presented, and then do
Okay.
a second motion to form the subcommittee of you and Russell to perform interviews and come back with a candidate for appointment.
If one of you guys can make one of those and maybe the other make another.
I'll make a motion to
What,
accept
so-
the,
Oh, I was gonna, so did you send out the edited job description?
Yeah, it was part of the packet.
Oh, why did I miss that? So either I didn't scroll down or, oh no, there it is. Okay. You know what? I didn't read through that. Shoot. Yeah, I can't make a, I'm not gonna be able to approve the job description. I did not read through it.
Okay. That shouldn't be an
I
issue,
can, okay.
right, Peter? Was that it? Will that be an issue?
No, you can put it on your next meeting.
Yeah.
I think the changes should be approved by the commission formally in the motion. But that can probably wait till your next meeting.
Okay, let's make sure that gets on the agenda for the next meeting. And how about a motion to accept myself and Russ Jennings to head up a subcommittee?
I'll make
to
a
approve.
motion.
Roll call.
Second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Bernard,
I,
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Moving on to the next thing, Peter, McClure Engineering proposal for the water line valve there by the town hall.
Yeah, so McClure Engineering has provided the attached proposal to design a water line valve connection for the double barrel portion of the water line on Main Street. The water line in this area of town common has two 12-inch water lines on each side of the common that do not connect on the northerly side. This prohibits us from operating the water line in directional flow, as it will just move the water residual issue from one point in the system to another. So in discussions with the town of, not with Whitewater, who operates the system, and trying to find a way to alleviate this, course of action was discussed, and McClure Engineering has provided the proposal attached that will design the lateral that will connect both water lines, and thus hopefully allow us to finally operate that system in directional flow, which should help with the water quality issue and eliminate the blow-off valve that's been running down by the Heritage School. So the course of action would be to approve this proposal. McClure Engineering will design it, probably with input from Whitewater and the operators. And after that, you can take that design, go out to bid, and have somebody come and perform the work.
That's something that I think needs to get done. Again, I guess it goes with the whole Exxon mobile water situation and the blow off situation. I think that we need to get that line tied in.
I agree. So you need a motion to approve this?
Please.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
And a second.
second.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Bernard,
I,
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Moving on, I don't have the agenda in front of me right now. Other business,
Old business, no old business, no other business for me.
no other business for you. Again, I guess I just want to thank you, Peter, for the last 6 years, and appreciate you getting everything done for the sewer department that you've been able to accomplish.
Thank you.
Let's see here. next meeting?
The first Tuesday is October 3rd.
First Tuesday is October 3rd. Does that sound good with you guys?
Fine with me.
Yep, that works.
All right. About a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a
Second.
second?
Yep.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. McLeod,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Thanks,
Excellent.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Good
Take
night.
it easy.